This is Quincy Morris, creator and writer of In Between Men.
And Jennifer Gelford, director of In Between Men. And we're going to talk about the pool hall scene, which is one of my favorite scenes in the show.
Hi, boys. Another round.
Reason being is that this was the scene where I really found my director's legs. I was worried because I had not had much experience in film before I came to this show. Most of my experience is in theater. I was a theater-trained actor and director, and coming to this, I was quite frightened about the camera and not knowing where to put it and how to put it and, you know, what that entailed. And in this scene, I asked everybody to leave the set, and I sat with my four actors, or actually I stood with my four actors, and organically we found this scene, and then we were able to bring the DP and the script supervisor back in, and then bring everybody else back in and figure out where the camera was going to go. So we made the camera work for the actors as opposed to the other way around, which is how I really found to love film directing, because I got to see that I could do that. I was always so afraid that I was going to have to make it work for the camera, and I see that the camera is working for my actors, which was very exciting. And from that moment on, I just loved the process. It was just great fun because I got to have this new toy that kind of could do things that I could never do before. So it was a great experience.
Yeah, I also wanted to talk about how in the script, everything that's written doesn't necessarily have to translate verbatim to the screen once we get in the room. How the guys move, there are some stage directions there and actions that are there just for writing's sake, but don't have to necessarily play out that way. You see the guys kind of move around as according to what the room and the location when the director sees fit, as opposed to always what's literally on the page.
Oh yeah, what's great is that you know, especially working with Quincy, is he wasn't somebody who was like, no, it must be this way. Whereas a lot of times you will have a writer who will say, this has to happen here. And as a director and you know, an actor, I don't work that way. I like to let my actors find it for themselves, especially when it comes to their behavior. I don't want them to be told they have to pick up this stick at this moment or do it at this moment, that they find it for themselves, which is what really happened, going back to having the camera work for the actors, because then they weren't tied down to anybody else's choice. They could find it for themselves.
Right, and we can see here just how the camera is working and helps out the scene. We really wanted to get across in this, the relationship, maybe the first inklings of Dalton and Ben.
And Ben. Yeah, that is something we found in that scene. There is this kind of underlying undercurrent of a relationship, or a want of a relationship between Ben and Dalton. That really wasn't in the script, but when I saw it being played, I turned to Quincy and I said, we need to play this up even more. There's something here. There's some kind of unrequited love going on. And how interesting that it's from the big player. The player of the group has this underlying love, possibly, for his best friend that hasn't been addressed yet. And that he's been, you know, and that possibly is a reason for why he is doing, you know, the kind of sex he has and the kind of promiscuity he has, because he's not willing to look at his feelings and look at, but underneath, and how you see it played out in the scene, that's going on. So this was where it really came out. And
yeah.
This was our second day of shooting, so it was great because we got to really play on that in future scenes. We got to play with that underlying relationship that possibly exists.
Yeah, you see how Ben brings up, oh, you know, surprise you're not with him, you know, right now. There are no accidents. I guess people bring things up for a reason, even if it's like a slip of a tongue, is that he doesn't want to share him. You know, a lot of times when we get into relationships, we don't spend as much time with our friends, and some, you know, oftentimes that they have a feeling about that. But what I like what the camera does here is when he's talking about that, it's coming up now when Ben is expressing kind of like the surprise you're hanging out with us, that this look that the camera picks up is like, that Nick plays really well, is like this, he senses something and like, you know, what's going on, and that's strange, you know, that you react that way.
Right, but he doesn't sense that maybe there's something even deeper.
Right.
It's not just a jealousy of friendship and losing a friend, that it's something else is at play here.
Right.
And that's what we really found in this scene, which we had never seen before in any of our readings, or just even when we discussed these characters. But this really came out in that scene. So it was really something that we followed through for the rest of the show, that there was always this underlying current. And so every scene you'll see with Ben, that is somewhat at the bottom of it, which was great for that actor to have to play because he had something more to play than just a friendship. He had a secret, which is always important.
Great. Is that it? Well, that was Anatomy of a Scene for the Pool Table Scene in episode 4.